but how will all of these cues impact our own markets this morning? We have our research team joining in with the Power Prep segment, with the trade setup, the stocks to watch out for, and the FNO setup as well. First up, Ekta is joining in to get us all the market cues we need to watch out for this morning. Good morning, Ekta. It was a strong recovery yesterday. What are you watching out for this morning?
Morning, Hormuz. Well, based on what the global markets have done or the US markets have done, then hopefully there should be probably, a continued resilience for the Indian markets. So the markets did recover from their opening lows on expiry day yesterday. The markets ended higher for the fifth straight day. The advanced decline ratio was positive at around 4:3. This morning, we have the US markets where the weekly jobless claims as well as the GDP data was out. The GDP data has disappointed the street, and that is the big cue today. In terms of Friday's data, we have the March personal consumption expenditure index as well. So I think the street will be watching out for that very closely in terms of determining what the Fed could do. Because remember, preceding the GDP data was the manufacturing data from the US, which also disappointed. So Asia is largely higher, however, ahead of the Bank of Japan, decision. In terms of results post-market, we had a lot of numbers to watch out for in terms of results post-market. For example, Bajaj Finance, IndusInd, TechM, Zenza, Cyient. So all of these companies will be reacting to its numbers. And today we have cues coming in from Bajaj Finserv, CSB Bank, HCL Tech, Maruti, SBI Life, Shriram Finance, like you mentioned. So all of these companies would be in focus. Remember, tomorrow also we have the likes of a couple of big banks coming out. So it'll be important to watch out for. Phase 2 polling begins today. So that would be another important domestic cue. So despite sluggish global cues, we could probably be singing to our own tune at this point in time.
Thanks a lot, Ekta, for all the cues that you need to watch out for. But over to Sudarshan now, who would list out the stocks that you need to watch out for in today's trade. Good morning, Sudarshan. What do you have for us?
Morning, Homa. So we'll start with Tech Mahindra. Revenue has come in higher than estimates, while margin was in line. Constant currency revenue growth has fallen 0.8% versus estimate of 1.3% fall sequentially. Margin has improved 200 bips to 7.4%. Company also has unveiled 3-year turnaround plan, and company targets top-line growth above peer average and 15% margin by FY27. Bajaj Finance numbers were below estimates as cost of funds have weighed in. Calculated net interest margin has come in at 9.69% versus 10.11% year-on-year. NII was down 7% against estimate at 8,013 crore. Company has requested RBI to review the decision on e-commerce and Insta EMI card business. IndusInd Bank mixed Q4 earnings. NI was below poll. Other income and lower OPEX have driven profit. NI was down 2%. Profit is up 1% versus estimates. LTTS mixed Q4 earnings. Constant currency revenue growth at 5.1% versus estimate of 4.8%. Margin was at 16.9% versus estimate of 17.2%. FY25 guidance is lower than estimate 8 to 10% growth. Emphasis, rupee revenue is up 2.2%, margin is flat at 14.9%, constant currency revenue is up 2.1%, and new deal total contract value was weak at $177 million. Schaeffler India, weaker than consensus expectations, missed on all fronts. Margin has come in at 18.1% versus 18.6%. That is down 47 bips year-on-year. Sandur Manganese has entered into a share purchase agreement for Adzer Steel Private, and this acquisition is expected to be completed in 7 months. Tata Steel to proceed with £1.25 billion investment to build electric ARC furnace in Port Talbot.
Plenty of stocks to watch out for as always. Thanks a lot, Sudarshan, for joining in. And lastly, Nigel comes in with cues from the FNO space. Morning, Nigel. It's the start of the FNO. It's a new FNO series. What are you watching out for this morning?
Well, April series is good, right? Hormuz, we recovered a fair bit from the low point, and in fact, the markets ended higher as well for the series itself, but though the broader markets were big outperformers. Now, if you look at the intraday chart, you'll see the way the markets recovered in yesterday's trade. It was phenomenal. We went closer around 22,300 and ended closer around 22,600. And the intraday chart, at some point of time, will come up for you on the screen. But, Hormuz, what I always say is, I like a net short market. I keep repeating this point. People were saying that, the FI net short positions went to 1 lakh contracts. That's a blessing in disguise. History tells us when the FIs go aggressive on one end, well, that's when you normally see a short covering bounce. And it's played out yet again. Yesterday, we saw close to around 70,000 contracts in terms of a swing factor. We started the day at FI net short at 1.24 lakh. We ended at around 53,000 net short contracts come in for the FI. So that's the power of short covering up for you on the screen. PCR, well, we're close to the upper end, actually, closer to the upper end, I would say, because normally the range is 0.7 on the downside to around 1.6. So we're holding at around 1.3. That's just a data point that I'll put up for you on the screen. What about the levels we're looking at? The 20 and the 50 DMA, very, very important in terms of reference points. I'll tell you what, if we can hold on to this 22,150, 22,200 odd mark, it's a buy on dips market. You need to participate on the upside. If you look at a resistance level, I'll be looking at it in 300 points. So 22,700, then 23,000, then 23,300. You know, that's approximately the number that I'm looking at. The Nifty Bank did well yesterday as well. Reference point on the downside is the 20 DMA. The recent high comes up for you, 49,000 odd. And we have a lot of cues coming in the May series. And historically, it's been a good one. So all those cues should come up for you on the screen. Elections, earnings, progressive monsoons, and what happens in terms of geopolitical tensions as well as the Fed. Back to you.
We'll see if sell in May and go away has any form of impact on the markets. But on the ball, as always, Nigel, thanks a lot for joining in at time.